need. So if you would additionally wish to speak to someone or get advice from folks in your respective major or area of work, feel free to contact the youth team, and we will do our absolute best to connect you with someone within the best of our abilities. So I guess just one example is like engineering, for example, isn't covered here, but if you wanted to speak to me or anyone else, we could easily direct you. Granted, there's a lot of us in engineering, so it's probably an easier one, but this goes for everyone regardless of area or major. We'll do our best to support you all, inshallah, as much as possible. Okay, so that's all of my opening moderator spiel. I would now like to go on and introduce our panelists today, people I'm really excited to hear from. As I go through their bios, feel free to send me questions that you might have for them. Additionally, just a note to the panelists, please feel free to bounce off of each other. Don't feel like you have to wait for a prompt from the moderator. Alrighty, so Astrid. Astrid is an architectural designer in Houston, Texas. She received her undergraduate degree in architecture at the University of Texas at Arlington, and then went on to get her master's of architecture at the University of Houston. She has worked for Jacobs for 5 years, as well as teaches first-year foundation architectural design studio at the University of Houston. She has one cat, Somai, that will probably be making a special appearance today, inshallah. Okay, so we also have with us today Honest, who is a 2019 graduate from Al-Azhar University, Cairo, Egypt, with a degree in Islamic law and jurisprudence. Currently based in LA, he aspires to serve his local communities in Los Angeles and beyond as an educator, community builder, and in other capacities. He has peak interest in the Islamic sciences, history of Islam in Nusantara and the Americas, Muslim civilizations, community building, colonialism, mentorship, Muslim Indonesian American identity, and any book he can get his hands on. Rehana is a very recent graduate, as in this past May, mashallah, from Center College. She received a bachelor's in international studies with a concentration in Middle Eastern politics. During her college career, she studied abroad in Strasbourg, France, to study the formation of the European Union and the Council of Europe. She now works at a political action committee called the Progressive Turnout Project. Haaretz will also be joining us later. So Haaretz is a graduate of the University of California at Irvine with a degree in biology. He was involved in undergraduate research during his time there, directed by Professor McGough and Dr. German at UCI. He also was one of the directors of a nonprofit organization called Camp Med, which encourages underprivileged high school students to pursue STEM and other pre-health careers. He's passionate in mentoring and inspiring the younger generation, and is currently working as an educational therapist with students who have learning disabilities. So, okay. Before we take questions, which again, you can send through me, through the chat, or privately or publicly or otherwise, I would now like to pass it over to the panelists because, of course, I can only cover so much in a brief bio. So I would like to ask if they would like to each touch on their experiences more in their own words and perhaps share a major takeaway they've gained from their academic or career experiences, inshallah. Floor is open to anyone. Honest, I'm gonna volunteer you because he's part of our youth team, so.
I volunteer as tribute. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyid Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alhamdulillah, thanks for the youth team and IMSA just having this. I feel like it's really good to open our perspectives in terms of, as graduates, right, from high school, where do you want to go? What path do you want to take? And so forth. And so just touching on my perspectives and my experiences, especially because of Al-Azhar itself, it's a very traditional Islamic seminary, meaning it's been over a millennia, 1,000 years of where you know Islamic scholarship has been around at that time, right? Even to the fact where you have students 2 centuries ago coming from Indonesia themselves, seeking knowledge over in Egypt. But just going into like the whole idea of studying Islam, pursuing education in the Islamic studies, why go for it, right? I've seen some of the graduates, they were interested in, I think, Arabic and Islamic studies. But I guess to start it off, it's like, what do we think about Islamic studies, right? So like, I guess like, from my own personal experiences, it's like, okay, we have Saturday Sunday school, right, at the local masjid. We have the madrasa, for example, for the mu'tamar babies around. We also have as well like lectures from the ustad, this and that, religious leaders and so forth. Um, when we think about Islamic studies, it's a whole umbrella of different subjects that come into play. So, just studying Islam from that kind of perspective, you study about, okay, the Quran and its sciences, its different sciences in terms of reading it, in terms of the tajweed, in terms of pronunciation and its disciplines, the study of Quran, the history of the Quran, the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his study, his life. You study as well the interpretive process of the sources. For example, when we see in the community as how if they pray when starting a salah as Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, right? Other communities, for example, from North Africa would start straight away with Alhamdulillah, right? So that's something that is studied as well, in terms of Islamic studies. Um, as well, you study the Arabic language, right? Because Arabic has its sources coming from Quran, as Quran being in the Arabic, and understanding the different disciplines in terms of poetry, so forth. Grammar, rhetoric. You study logic because that is employed in how we think, right? Islamic history and rectification of the soul. But then and Islamic beliefs. The 5 pillars, the 6 pillars of faith as well. But then we get to a point. If you're really talking about like pursuing higher education in Islam and the studying of Islam, why would someone go for that reason, right? Why would someone go the whole 9 yards for studying Islam itself? Right? I mean, just having the intention itself, the reason why we study Islam in the first place, that should put you in a position of thinking about things, of thinking about the reality of things, right? So why pursue it? It's at the end of the day, when you're studying Islam, you're studying about the real. You're studying about reality. You're studying about, who am I as a person towards what my creator wants from me, right? We want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to get closer to the creator. And not every single person has to go through the path that I took per se, but from my own kind of passion, my own kind of curiosity, I wanted to really delve deep into, understanding, because I felt like, growing up, I didn't really receive or actually kind of learn Islam the way that, it's really contextualized by, of the religious leaders of how they teach nowadays. Mashallah, you have many people that are leading the front lines in terms of the Muslim community, some names: Imam Omar Suleiman, Sheikh Muslim Permo, Sheikh Aisha Prime, Imam Sahib Web, and all these other names. They're doing their thing, right, in terms of community work, leading the community, the Muslim community, and so forth. Um, but yeah, in terms of Islamic studies, that's like, you have to have that purpose in terms of honing in, like, why do I want to study this, right? And the sole purpose of that is to get closer to your creator, right? So that's why when you're thinking of like trying to create a career out of this, people that go into the whole pursuit of knowledge, quote unquote, right? Where it is encouraged for us to learn more and more. It's a lifelong journey. It's a never-ending journey, right? It's You're not thinking about the mullah. You're not thinking about, I'm going to be in this position or that position and so forth, but you're thinking about that. how can I benefit myself and also benefit the community, right? You're giving back. What can you do? You got to spread that knowledge, right? Where they say after studying, um, you're giving zakah, right? How much is zakah itself? That much just to give back to the community. Right? In terms of um, my personal kind of experiences, even before going to Egypt and Azhar, I went to an Islamic boarding school in Pondok Pesantren Darun Najah in Jakarta, and so I guess that kind of led, um, you know, the building blocks of me going deeper into like, oh, okay, adding onto my curiosity, as well as the nurturing of, we had in SoCal, alhamdulillah, we had like many religious leaders coming from Al Azhar, coming from different institutions. As I said, Sheikh Muslim Permal, Imam Sahib Webb used to be around, Sheikh Jamal Diwan, and others that really grounded how I would learn Islam and how Islam was taught in a way, right? Where from the quote unquote, not to be cliche, but like, sometimes the boring khutbahs that make you snore a bit to like where, Islam is something that's living, right? You're living with it in this context of where we are as um, whatever identity you may be, right? Indonesian, Muslim, or American, and so forth. So I guess, that's what was my launch pad in terms of getting to really dig deeper. At. Um, but yeah, so going from Indonesia for my high school, I went to Egypt because I had connections with friends that were alumni from my boarding school in Egypt. So that was one thing. I feel like in terms of just generally speaking, in terms of careers, or like career making, or like going into higher education and whatnot, you need to create networks, right? Connecting is very important, where you can go from place to place if you know that person, right? It makes things very easier. The I forget how many degrees of separation until you meet someone. That's about 6 or something. But yeah, that's really important in terms of connections that you make. Um, and I guess I could break down as well a bit of my day to day in terms of being in Egypt as well. Um, so the day to day was like, oh, okay, after Fajr. And this is the thing, right? When you're on a roll in terms of passion and quote unquote, when you're on this kind of path of seeking knowledge, a seeker of knowledge, and all these other terms, you really want to hone in, and you really want to have that discipline. The discipline. What is the discipline of someone like studying Islam, for example, when it's like a lifelong journey, right? To get closer and understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of my teachers said that, at the very least, you should be reading and studying for a third or a fourth of your time of 24 hours, right? Like 6 hours ish of just reading and studying and researching. Yeah, a lifelong journey in terms, right? So you have, for example, after Fajr, there are classes that go on to Dhuhr. A specific, different books here and there. You study under different teachers. And this is, sometimes there's also like a misconception of like, oh, it's a very male-oriented kind of learning path in terms of seeking. But then there's Sheikh Akram Nadwi's book on the muhaddithat, the narrators, not just specifically narrators, but the female narrators of the Islamic tradition, where he had hundreds of thousands of narrators of that time, right? So the Islamic tradition is open for everyone, for those that are really passionate about that. Um, I guess a bit few more advices on just generally speaking. You have mentorship. You want to learn from people that are um, very, I guess, specialized in their disciplines and so forth, right? I guess that's just a bit onto um, my take on my experiences and whatnot. I'll let it go because I've been a bit on inshallah. So jazakallah khair.
Okay, thank you, Anas, for your background and just setting up the scene for everybody. I think that was very useful. So, inshallah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Also, we are monitoring the questions through Facebook and YouTube as well. So, if you send questions through there, we'll also reach them. Astrid or Rehana, if you wanted to speak a little bit about your experiences, inshallah.
You can go ahead and follow up. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Astrid. So I am a designer, architectural designer in Texas. I did study architecture throughout my undergraduate degree. I actually switched majors, and here's the cat. He's here on cue. So I actually switched majors my freshman year from journalism to architecture. So if you think that you have an idea of what you want to do, sometimes things change, and that's completely okay. Okay, let's I can go. So I wanted to talk about design in general. The field of architecture is so wide, the field of design, there's so many different aspects that can go into design. First is the built environment. I teach first year studio in this College of Architecture, which encompasses interior architecture, architectural, I guess, in buildings, and then industrial design, which is like a smaller scale version of design, like you're designing phones, cups, mugs, cell phones, whatever. So I'd like to maybe give some sort of perspective on how academia and I'm assuming a lot of these graduates are graduating from high school, right? So going into college. Okay. So some general advice about how to tackle college, not specific to design. There are three main points that I wish I knew back when I was younger. So I had a list of a couple of things that I would like to share that I've learned over the years. So piggybacking off Honest's talk about what is your intention with what you're studying, whether it's design, whether it's engineering, liberal arts, politics, what are you wanting to do in this world? Like our religion gives us a purpose to what we fulfill and to the larger scope of our community. What purpose would you like to play? For example, even if you don't know what you want to do, like how do you imagine placing yourself in this world? What are the skills and what are the things you can bring forward? So those are the kind of things that can help you figure out what exactly you would like to play in your community. So having a purpose to what you would like to be can help you push you in the direction you would like to go, knowing yourself and your skills. The second thing I wanted to talk about is skills and knowledge. So you think that you go to school to obtain all this knowledge and you're learning, you're studying, you're memorizing these things, but with knowledge comes understanding, and with understanding comes a skill where you apply this knowledge to your everyday life. So I've been on both sides. So I've been like a student, I've been like someone that has been interviewed, I've been the person interviewing for my company, I've also been a teacher. So seeing like all aspects of the process of getting to through a career, I think that one of the biggest things I like to look for in a student or a potential employee is knowledge is something you can gain over time. So knowledge is something that I can teach you, something you can find for yourself. But I would also like to know what are your skills and what are your abilities to learn. So I think that in addition to, for example, as a designer, you have to know how to draw, you have draft, model, render. There's a bunch of skills that you can learn, but I would also like to know what is your ability to learn. So how are you able to adjust to new situation? How are you able to solve problems? How are you able to seek knowledge? Is there a curiosity? Is there something that pushes you forward? Those are the very strong qualities that I have seen in stronger students and my classmate, and how do I cultivate that in myself? So think about not just skills as in technical skills or um, you know technical or other or otherwise I think obtaining knowledge, as Anna said earlier, it's a lifelong process. So to be in the process of learning is a skill that you also need to exercise. I know that after a while, once you get into the rhythm of things, especially when you start working, you kind of fall into the rhythm of doing your everyday 9 to 5, but you still have to push yourself um, forward in the process of learning. And as a student, it's easy because you're learning every day. But even beyond that, I think it's, if anyone's a little bit older, and um, just to remind ourselves to keep learning every day is one of the ways we can push ourselves even further and fulfill these roles that we intend to fulfill in our community. Um, Curiosity is also a strong quality that, especially as designers, we seek problems in the world and we try to solve them through functions of, practicality, functions of beauty, functions of aesthetic. Um, why does an industrial designer design the car to be aerodynamic? That's uh, the curiosity of like what can be done better is something that you need to have if you want to go into the field of design. You have to be able to push yourself and push the boundaries of what has already been out there. Um, is the question that you should also be asking. Goes along the lines of like learning constantly, everyday questioning. These are things that are also enforced in a religion, like to seek knowledge, to not just take knowledge as you are fed, to question it, to digest it, and then make something out of it. So I feel like as an architect, we are usually, you know, we have to be able to like uh, collect all this information and then make it into a solution and then present it through drawings, through buildings, through design solutions, whether we design cities, homes, houses, like shopping centers, whatever, or if you're a designer that's designing cars, pencils, notebooks, laptops, So I love the field of design. There's so many possibilities to what you can do. So um, it's really exciting if that's what you're trying to pursue. My last point is something that I was told my first time I was at a job fair. So I think I was about to graduate my undergrad in architecture. Uh, First time, like going to this huge job fair, there's all these companies. I was scared. Okay, like I didn't have any experience in the field. Uh, so I think me and my friend, she was a Chinese Malaysian, we were like, I guess, in the corner at the entrance. And then one of the employers is like, hey, you guys look kind of scared. Come over here, I'll talk to you. And we're like, okay. He comes and he's like, you guys look scared, but I don't think you guys should be scared because, if you look around, everyone has been in your place before. Like all these people, all these professionals, all these, older senior architects, these people that are hiring you, they've all been in your position. You're not the first person to be a beginner. Um, so what you need to do is you need to take whatever you can and make it better than what we've been doing. So basically, it's okay to not know it, is to feel like you don't know anything, to feel like you don't have any skills yet because it's okay, you're still learning. That's something I like to tell my students or the interns that we have. You don't need to know everything. You need to be able to have that drive to eventually get to that point where we like someone in a senior position is, and then go even further. So it's helped, that piece of advice has helped me tackle imposter syndrome, which I still feel to this day. The field of architecture and design is it's still a very white male driven community, so trying to find your place is still something I battle every day, but just remembering that everyone was once in my place and they were able to come out of it means that I should be able to do that too. So take it day by day, and then also just keep learning. As I said, I think that's one of the most important reminders I have to give myself. Like it's a lifelong process, and it never stops. And then I'll pass the mic.
Thank you, Esther. That was great. Honestly, there's a lot of reminders there that I think are really important to everybody, especially those of you that just graduated. Yeah, just the fact that try to stay curious, try to stay always willing to seek knowledge, but then also remember that while it's okay to be scared, you're still learning. You don't have to get it right immediately or the first time or even the second time. Like, we're all still trying to figure things out, even post grad. Thank you so much. Also, very cool that Asher can give us like the perspective of a student, but then also someone, an interviewee, things of that sort from industry, and then also from academia. So
Also, I was like, just there's something I forgot to mention. My first interview, like I didn't have any industry experience. I never worked in a firm before, but they were asking, you know, you don't have any experience. What can you bring to the table? I actually mentioned Muktamar, how I mean, back when I was younger, I think it was run by the MISG students, and then eventually me and the people my age, we were like, you know, I think we can run this. So we started to take over and, you know, plan the program ourselves. So I mentioned, I was like, yeah, we kind of started this youth group that's a very national network. I think they were impressed. And so, I mean, mentioning things like this, being involved in like IMSA or the youth group is a testament to how you are, you know, globally connected. Staying in touch with people across US is always helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just to bridge off of that, we do also want to like cultivate this community and this network for you guys because it's helpful in the sense that it's allowed us to grow. So we would like to watch you guys grow and support you as well, inshallah. So I'm gonna ask Rehana to go, but Rehana, would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit in your own words as well, and then also maybe some
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Rehana. As Zahra stated earlier, I'm an international relations major, and my concentration was studying politics of the Middle East and like foreign policy between the United States and Middle East. My specific area of study was actually Israel and Palestine, so it just gets nicher and nicher. But something that's super interesting, or the major is super neat, and I really enjoyed going into it. But something that I personally took away from my own major is that everything you will read has a bias, and that's not necessarily like a a bad thing. But like going in as an international relations major, like not really having a background in politics of the Middle East, you will like read academic journals and like read articles that are sort of, there's a dissonance between what you're learning in academia and then also what the US government is telling you. So just like keeping that in mind, and like the fact that everything has a bias isn't necessarily a bad thing. But as Astrid had said earlier, just like continuing to question things and continuing and thinking about like a person's motivation, like what a person's motivation is in publishing this information. And I feel like this is super beneficial when you go into college, because whenever I was in high school, you learned specifically from textbooks, and like you're expected to take whatever you learned at face value. But in college, at least in like my classes and my study, you were highly encouraged to think critically, because you're not necessarily learning from textbooks. It's not, you learn that history is not like a black and white thing. It's written by certain people with certain perspectives and that have certain biases, and like keeping that in mind when you're reading things, and like taking information so that when you like, and keeping that in mind when you in turn write your own history and write papers and whatnot, I think is super helpful when writing papers, and also just when you're learning in general. And another general point about just college in general is don't focus purely on your grades. think more generally about your own skills and gain more from your experience in college, other than like accolades and like graduating summa cum laude or magna cum laude or whatnot. Something that I really valued from my senior seminar professor was that whenever we like did any projects or assignments from her, she didn't email us nearly grades. Like she wasn't like, oh, here's an 87A. She would like call us. Well, also this was like a class of 15 people, so it was much easier to do this. But she would call us into her office and like give us critiques and like try and teach us transferable skills that we can take onto like later jobs, or even just like in other classes. For example, like a lot of our assignments were like discussion based because it was a seminar. So a lot of us, like our assignments are mainly just like creating discussion questions and leading discussion about a reading to their classmates. So she would like tell us like, one, speak with confidence. You know more than you think you know more than you think you do. And also just skills that will help you with your public speaking in general, and not just like, oh, this is what my teacher's gonna like, this is what's gonna get me an A. So thinking more generally about how will this help me in the long run? What can I gain from this assignment other than like something good on my transcript? But yeah, I have much less professional experience than the speakers before me. So.
Oh, thank you so much, Hannah. Yeah, that's always a cool thing to remind yourself, just like, obviously sometimes we just do schoolwork to do schoolwork, but it's good to know that you should digest the information and think about how it'll help you in the long run. Also, really appreciated your point that backed off of Astrid's as well, to always question and learn, to always seek knowledge, but then question it and digest it rather than just taking it at face value. Another point that I wanted to drive home was that you said you know more than you think you do. I really do think my biggest like motto in undergrad was "You're smarter than you think you are." Don't doubt yourself. Imposter syndrome is real, but again, you are smarter than you think you are. So Haritz has joined us. Would you like to just talk about your experiences in academia and your career, and then some takeaways?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sorry for being late. I was with my session with my client, but anyway, so my undergrad. So previously the majors that you Raya mentioned was very niche, right? So I came in as a biology major. So that in itself is very opposite. It's very broad. Biology covers every aspect of field, and you can go into different types of biology. You know, you can go microbiome, molecular bio, pre-dental, pre-health, pre-med, pre-pharmacy. So within biology itself, you can go different directions, right? So that's what I came in with. So the main takeaway for like for a college experience, I would say like one tip that I would want to emphasize on the people you surround with. I think that's really important because the friendship that you make and the people that you meet in college certainly will shape the person, who you are as a person, right? So I think it's very important to establish that relationship right in the beginning or throughout the college, because if you, let's say, hang out with people who are studious, will motivate you to become a better student. Or if you surround yourself with people who are driven with community service, right? Then certainly it'll shape you who you are as a person. So I think that's the main tip that I would say, because when I was in college, I surrounded myself with people who are motively driven and always involved in community service. And I was involved with nonprofit organization called Camp Med, and we help underprivileged high school students. And through that, I kind of find my passion, right? And I realized that my passion was like, dealing with high school students and dealing with the kids and teaching them uh, teaching them how to navigate through high schools, how to navigate throughout life and whatnot. And that's what I realized I really like, and that's where my passion is. And as well, and with people you're surrounded with, you're able to build a connection, right? And that is one way you can kind of broaden your scope. Like, let's say, for example, as a biology major, it's just very important for you to get involved in research, right? In undergrad, and it's very easy to get into research if you have more connection, right? Instead of like applying under a professor and then applying a certain position in a research, if you're more outgoing and more involved and know more people, you're able to stand out. I'm not saying that go out there and meet every single person, but then be out there and kind of like let yourself be known and be open-minded. So I was, yeah. um I don't know where I'm going with this, but then but essentially meeting the right people is, as I would say, is the most important part of the in college experience, I would say. I don't know if this topic was covered, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hards. Yeah, that is very important. Just the network that you surround yourself with and the network that you build and gain through your academic experiences are able to serve you in the long run, inshallah. So it is important to cultivate that throughout your school career. Okay, so
Oh, I would like to point this out to you. Like the friendship that you'll make in high school, in college, is very different from the friendship you'll make in high school, right? Because in college, you'll meet friends and you'll meet peers that have the same goal as you, right? The same inspiration, and sometimes that same goal or that same inspiration creates a stronger bond as opposed to people who are in high school, right? And to this day, like I still hang out with people who are in college, and we still meet up and talk about a lot of stuff. And you'll definitely create a stronger bond in people you meet in college.
yeah, great. That was a great additional point. If we could move on to some questions that we've received, if that's okay with the panelists. Yeah. Okay. So this was kind of touched upon a little bit by Astrid and then also Haritz. Do you guys have advice or just general thoughts about changing your path or finding your passion midway and changing direction? Things of that sort. I think it's especially important because it's kind of intimidating as high schoolers to like choose a major and then think about like what you want to do for the rest of your life at 18 years old. So if you have any thoughts on that point, that would be great.
Well, as for me, I actually came in as a undecided, right? But then I kind of changed kind of in the middle of freshman year because I knew back in high school I was really interested in science, any form of science. So so I took more of like a broad approach. Okay, science. Okay, the most science thing I can think of is biology. And from the biology, I kind of limit cut down like every avenues about biology to certain aspect of microbiology or biochemistry and whatnot. So I took more of like a big and small approach, I would say. So it's okay to change, I would say. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I came in as a pre-med and I changed, I think, for third year.
Yeah, I started off with a journalism major, and I just realized I really didn't like it at one point. And so my backup, architecture was my first choice, but I heard about how difficult it was, how time consuming it was. Kind of like got a little afraid about the commitment, and so I did my second choice, journalism. I don't know, I didn't like writing as much as I thought I did. And I was like, what's the opposite of writing? Drawing, architecture. But I mean, alhamdulillah was the path that I really enjoyed. Architecture is not for the weak. I will say it takes a lot of long hours over what's it called, all nighters. Pulled a couple of brain cells doing that. But again, it's back to what I mentioned earlier. It's where do you see yourself in your community? How do you find your skill set, your interest? How do you find yourself putting that back into society? I felt like that's what was stronger for me in my personality and my interests and my skills. So if you find that something doesn't work for you, then it's better in the long run to switch into something that will be beneficial to you, your sanity, than to kind of force something down where it'll be difficult down the road. And so if you find that something doesn't work, there's always other avenues you can take.
Hannah, go ahead.
Yeah, similarly to what Astrid said, at my school, we're kind of unique in that you can't even pick a major until sophomore year, like sophomore spring. So you're sort of like forced to like branch out and like explore your options before you even like solidify like what you want to do. And I think like I know that's unique to my school, but I don't think that's totally out of the normal, out of the ordinary, or like not a bad idea to do when you're going to college, because like what you may think that you want to do may not like be what actually you want to do in practice. And I think it's good to like explore your options, and also like thinking about like what you said. It's hard to think that like, oh, what I choose at 18 is going to be what I want to do for the rest of my life. You can take this positively or negatively, but it's like super normal for people to like not get jobs in the degree that they get. Like I know a lot of my friends at Center, they graduated pre-med and then went or they graduated with a French degree and then they went pre-med. My friend was a politics major and then took the MCAT and went to grad school. My friend studied international relations and then actually went to Doctors Without Borders. It's like, I think you shouldn't see it as like this is what I'm solidifying myself in for the rest of my life. Think about it as like what Astrid said is like explore what you want to do and what you're good at, and play to yours.
Thank you. Yeah, all great points, especially yeah, it is pretty common for schools to have you like kind of take a few classes and courses and get used to the environment first before declaring a major. And then also, yeah, another great point is don't think that you're stuck in one path or force yourself to like fit into a space, because it is abundantly common to get a job in a field that you maybe didn't exactly major in. So yeah, all good points. Another question we received is, what are some challenges, or just, this could be super general, but what are some like challenges you faced within academia, within maybe even just like, this might be a little bit further down the road for a lot of our high school grads, but then just trying to find jobs and things of that sort. Yeah, whoever wants it.
I guess I could chime in. So like, just like the whole, I guess, major in like Islamic studies or Islamic law and jurisprudence. I guess, I don't know. I haven't met any Indonesian Americans traveling outwards and like studying Islam, going the whole path. It's like, when you think about Islamic studies, when you're committing the whole way through, I guess you could probably take that as like martial arts in a sense. When people, they really want to go all the way, they go to the Shaolin temple and like just, go full on and then they go back and whatnot. You have those narratives. But, just um, in terms of careers in the Islamic field, you see where it's like, okay, have the resident scholar, the community leader, but you also have people that are also in academia as well, where they're just teaching, Islam to university students. That's like one track. The other track would be more of, community involvement, right? You go into chaplaincy, where you're in spaces, like prisons, hospitals, community spaces, and so forth. And so like that's also a thing, right? You're just adding, it's skills that you would think you would never think of in terms of reading the text versus what's on the ground. In my experiences, where like, okay, you're dealing with people now. You're not dealing with books anymore, right? And it's people work that you need to work with, right? So communication goes in line, you know. Yeah, so like academia, and then you have more community kind of work where you're just teaching classes and so forth. And so that's also a dilemma within the Islamic leadership of, you have people that are on in different Muslim spaces or masajid and whatnot, but then you also have people that have their own thing, their own space, or they're just teaching on the side and so on and so forth. So there's many nuances to it, but then yeah, between academia and community work, right? So that's a more focus onto that I guess you have to solidify later as well. But yeah, and that's my dilemma as well. But yeah, I'm learning lots from here.
Jonas. Does anyone else want to talk about their challenges? Hearts, I see you've unmuted yourself.
In terms of like the types you're learning, as coming from a science of background, the level in which you're learning is very different. In high school, it's all about remembering things, understanding things, and learning how to apply, right? And those are basically the lower level tiers of like in terms of acquiring knowledge. Those are the three. Then afterwards in college, we take a step on a notch. So now you have to learn how to analyze. Then after you learn to analyze, you have to evaluate. Then after you evaluate, then there's a term where you synthesize stuff. So it's called Bloom's taxonomy, where you start out with the basic stuff where you learn in high school. Then later on in college, a higher level of thinking starts into play. Okay, so now in college you have to utilize this. They're going to ask questions about more application based analyze like analysis, how to evaluate certain problems, how to like synthesizing some problems. So it's not going to be a textbook question anymore, right? It's not going to be it's not going to be multiple choice of A, B, C, and D, and E. So in college you make they'll try to challenge you to learn how to think. That's in terms of education perspective, how they're gonna challenge you in college. Yeah.
Rehan Astrid, if you wanted to add anything about challenges within academia or things of that sort. Okay. Yeah, otherwise we can take the next question, but where did it go? Okay. How do you deal with like parental influences, maybe in terms of choosing a major or choosing a field and things of that sort?
I can speak a little to that. I guess I'll first say hi to my parents who are listening. on Facebook Live. But I guess, so something I don't recommend is when choosing to go to center and then also choosing my international relations major, I told my parents that I would minor in computer science, which was lying. I did not do that, nor did I intend to do that. So I think, and it was completely unnecessary because they were supportive of me going to international relations, like to begin with. Like there was no need for me to lie to them because they, so like eventually, you know, your parents love you and they'll support you no matter what, you know. But I think something to keep in mind is that your parents like only want what's best for you, you know, and they like if they're encouraging you to read pre-med or engineering or anything like STEM of the sort, that's like a lot of the times that is like, and I think that's a lot of what's on our minds is that that's like a lot of that is the one track to success is what they see. And I think that when, you know, you're like thinking about parental influences and like what you want to major in versus like what they want you to major in, is that understanding like where they're coming from, and then also like letting them understand where you're coming from, and then like letting them know like, hey, this major interests me, and it also won't handicap me in the future because of this, and this. Like for my international relations major, I told them it was super broad and that a lot of my friends from center who graduated in the same major were able to find jobs in the long run, and just like having a conversation like with them about that, because like they do respect you and they do want what's best for you. And yeah.
Well, yeah, all good points. It really is. A lot of the times it does come down to just the long run, like job search and then application and things of that sort. But yeah, inshallah, they do want to support you in the end. Yeah. Astrid, I had a question specifically for you. We actually have quite a decent handful of youth who just graduated that are going into architecture. Do you have any specific applicable advice for them, inshallah?
For architecture students, I guess if you haven't had this warning already, it is the most time-consuming major you can find on campus. This is pre-COVID, but the lights in the architecture building never go off. That's the saying at every single campus. Students are there 24/7. With that said, it does require a lot of dedication, focus, and passion. So you don't go into architecture thinking you're going to make all this money. It's not like a means of success that is fulfilling unless you're very passionate about what you do. And it's also going to be a lot different than the other majors, that if you're graduating out of high school and you're looking at what your other friends are doing, your major is going to be a lot different than what they're studying. Once you get past all the core classes, like all the math, the science, there's not much papers, there's not much test. A lot of it's design. You will create a lot of drawings, renderings, models, 3D models, handmade models. So it's very hands-on and you need to be involved. One of the things I liked what Haris was saying is that the friends that you make are very important. It's very important in architecture school because I think the whole thing about the COVID situation is that now everyone's separated. They're not in the studios together, which creates a culture of, you know, learning environment that you can't get now that we're all online. So I'm not sure how your universities are starting, if you are doing architecture starting in the fall. But a lot of what I learned in architecture school was also learned from my classmates. So we figure things out together, teaching each other. A lot of the times the professor won't tell you exactly what to do, and you have to figure it out. And as a professor also, I had to kind of leave my students hanging in order for them to kind of feel around and find the answers themselves, because that's when you get the really strong students, when they know how to find the question and then answer it themselves. So my advice is to stay focused, stay dedicated, create a network. These people, in addition to like spending the next 4 or 5 years, whichever degree plan you choose, in addition to spending the next 4 or 5 years with them, you will also be, those are the architects and designers that you'll be interfacing with in the future. So this is your network. 10, 15, 20 years down the line, you guys will be the architects of that time. So keeping in touch with your peers, creating that network. It's also try not to be too competitive. I'd say collaboration over competition. I know in architecture school, it's really hard to not feel competitive because you're pinning up your work, you're displaying your work in front of everyone. It's easy to feel like you start to compare yourself, you start to feel competitive, but at the end of the day, I think collaboration is what can help you succeed. So it's a lot of you need to interact. And so if you are starting the fall, I would say reach out to your classmates. It might be harder if it's online, but that's what makes the experience so much better in architecture school specifically.
Cool, thank you so much. Astrid, honestly, that was pretty applicable to just across the board, I would say. Learning from your classmates, figuring things out on your own, building your own strengths in that way, and then also finding ways to collaborate. Yeah, it is also worth noting, as she mentioned, that a lot of you all are going to start university in a really unique circumstance. So things are probably going to be a lot different from what any of us have ever experienced. But inshallah, with the advice of people, it'll be okay, inshallah. So Astrid also touched upon this as well. I wanted to ask about just the general spirit of like competition, and there's a lot of really, I know in particular my like program was incredibly competitive that it got really toxic and it was hard to reach out to other people. Do you guys have any like experiences in just like finding struggles with like connecting to other people and reaching to people within your program or even otherwise that might be helpful to people?
Oh yeah, I had plenty of experience because biology in itself, at least for my college, very competitive. So their major is built around weeding people each year. So they're trying to find a way to kind of like get people stray away from the major. So it's very important to kind of like I would say build a study, make a study group, right? Because a little bit of competitiveness is good because it'll drive your motivation to do better, right? And a lot of times, a good healthy environment is to kind of find a study group where you can teach each other materials, right? When you're able to teach certain materials for a class, you're able to retain a lot of information, and you get to see the materials from a different perspective. So in that way, it helps you and it'll motivate them. And sometimes, we compare scores afterwards, but it'll either, um, motivate motivate you or make you, feel down. But still, it a little bit competitive is good. So don't stay away from that competitiveness aspect. So embrace that a little bit. I know it gets stressful at times, but then you have to find people who are competitive, but at the same time supportive. You know, that got your back. Oh, do you need help? I'll help you out. We'll study together. I'll teach you this certain aspect. And you got to reach out too. You can't be the receiver end. You can reach. You can go out there and teach other people, connect with other people, and be reliable. And once other people know that you're reliable, then they'll open up and they'll teach you some other aspect, right?
Yeah, all great notes. Yeah, finding like a close circle that you can rely on is always really good. Competition can help you as well in the long run, as Hart's mentioned. It's just, it does present as a challenge if you're not expecting it. Well, um,
I think also how you view competition, if you view it as a way to improve yourself, like this is pushing me to move forward instead of pushing others down. So you're pulling yourself up to their level instead of pushing everyone down around you. I think that's also how your mindset about how this competitive atmosphere can take you either away or towards people. In architecture school, we literally have competitions where we enter designs into competitions. Someone can win, someone can't. So the nature can get very toxic, but you just have to be supportive because uh, it's not like the school that's deciding the winner. It's like exterior. So once it's out of your hands, it's okay. It's still a learning experience.
yeah, sometimes the environment is more enforced by the structure of the academics rather than the students itself. So yeah, that's also a great point. Um, let's see. One other question that we had was, this is extremely general, but I guess what has helped you get to where you are right now?
I guess I could chime in. I think it's always remembering the purpose of what you're trying to do. My perspective. It's the drive, right? The why. You're always trying to ask that question, why I'm doing this. And I feel like that's just a total reminder. If you're slacking off, if you're like, oh my God, like all these exams are just popping up here and there, and like all these books that I have to read and this and that and so forth. I feel like just seeing the broader picture of where you're going for, it really puts an impression on like, okay, there's, you know, there's a bigger, higher purpose of what I'm trying to do, regardless of whichever field I feel like.
Yeah, to add on to that, it's very easy to kind of get too caught up with, the present where focus on the next test, focus on the next test, focus on and sometimes you get worn out. And it's helpful to kind of take a step back and see, the broader picture and the purpose of all of and remind yourself why were you in this in the first place. Remind yourself like, okay, why did I choose a bio major? Oh yeah, that's right, I like this aspect of it, of the major. Remind yourself why you love this, why, and to keep your morale up throughout the years.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I guess, okay, so do you guys have any advice for high school students choosing majors or choosing fields that they may be interested in?
One thing is to not be afraid to take classes that like you like to branch out, and I think not being afraid to like take classes that you wouldn't normally take. Like I know when I like graduated high school, I had never taken an anthropology class or sociology class, and I was like super nervous about taking one at center, but I ended up like really loving it. And same with my like religion classes that I took. And I think like not being afraid to branch out and like looking at the course schedule and being like, oh, well, this isn't like, an econ class, like this wouldn't go along with my major, but like maybe I'll end up liking it. And I think like being able to branch out and like becoming a well-rounded student will really like help you decide what you want to do later, because like you have so many things to pull from. You can find your strengths and whatnot.
Yeah, branching out and just like widening your depth of experiences is always really great advice. Cool. This is kind of a similar question, but to one that was previously asked. But what experiences or processes or etc. helped solidify what you wanted to do, or rather, how did you come to decide what you wanted to do exactly?
Oh, okay. I guess like, um, so I knew coming in college that I love science. I love learning about science and anything about science, chemistry, biology, psychology or physics or anything like that. And what I realized throughout the year is that when I was developing this study group, I tend to teach a lot of my peers. Teaching a lot of a lot of materials, and I realized, you know what, this is kind of cool, and I think I'm really good at it. So when I learned my skills and on how to effectively communicate materials to other people, I realized that uh, maybe that is something I want to go for. So after I graduated, I applied to becoming an educational therapist, and I was able to apply those skills in teaching, kids who have learning disabilities. Um, and then I realized, what, when I am in that right now I'm in a hiatus, like trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I decided to, I'm gonna go to, mastering or PhD route, because I know that when I can, involve um, science and teaching as well. So that in that way, I kind of figure out what my passion is. So that's more of a specific example from my experience.
Thank you, Hearts. That was very helpful. Okay, so I think we'll do one more question and then a closing question. So 2 questions. So if you could go back and take another major, what would it be?
Hmm. Uh,
Hannah.
Okay. Okay. So if I had to go back and change another major, I think weirdly something that I would really love to do is major in religion. A lot of, and I think that's purely because a lot of my faculty are just really great people, and really taught me a lot. I know my favorite class that I took at Center was called Holy Violence, and it was essentially about learning like the intersections between like religion and sociology, and how like religious tenets can like solidify into like a essentially like manifesto that that can be like spun into to be used for violence, because usually a lot of people think of religion as being something peaceful, and we studied things from like Om Shinrikyo, who use like Buddhism, use tenets of Buddhism to unleash sarin gas in Japan. But it was just a super interesting and very like wide, very like broad study field of study in academia, and I think religion would be super cool to study.
That is really cool. Thank you, Hannah. Did any of the other panelists have any?
at least for me, I think I would double major. So I would still retain my like biology, but then at the same time, that one class that kind of like was an eye opening was religion as well. So I was taking an elective class, a religion class, and it certainly kind of poked my bubble a little bit because it challenged the idea of of our own religion and also well in the perspective of other religions. So we like on a weekly basis we debate on heavily on controversial topics. The professor would literally split us into middle and whether you agree with that topic or disagree, and we would all debate. And I thought that was like mind-boggling. Sometimes you have all the answers to a topic because all the information, but you realize like, wait, I don't really know that much. You know, so uh, I would say the religion class was like really a mind opening, class, and I would certainly be interested in double majoring in that.
I have a little bit of advice for the architecture students. I did a minor in business administration. It helped because you learn about contracts, you learn about how small businesses work. A lot of architectural firms are small businesses. So if you are interested in one day having your own firm, doing some kind of business minor or I don't think a double major is possible for a lot of architecture students. So if I could, I would probably go back and do more business classes or get an MBA. Just also out of um, my own personal wanting to learn how things run.
I guess I could chime in as well. I mean, taking Islamic law and jurisprudence, you get like, I guess, like the meat of like the text and what they talk about and whatnot. But then like when you're trying to serve the community on the ground, it's a whole different ballgame. But I feel like, in terms of being a very effective community um, activist, leader, whatever you want to call it, I guess, just education that I would really want to go into. So in terms of like, how you disseminate, concepts and knowledge from like, just to different people and communication as well. I feel like a double major in education, pedagogy, how you teach, right? I feel like that's really important in terms of if you're trying to relay a message, how you relay that to a certain audience, right? So that's my tidbit there.
Very cool. So it kind of mainly sounds like I think the team submitted this as like a little fun takeaway question, but everyone submitted answers that were like, this is how I would build my career with an additional degree. But yeah, all very useful, and we appreciate that, inshallah. Okay, so as a closing question, thank you again to all our panelists. Because we do have a significant amount of graduates this year, I'm pretty sure we have almost 30 high school graduates within the IMSA community. What specific advice do you all have for those of them that are entering college and starting their higher education experience? Whoever wants it.
I will take it. I guess be ready to be open-minded, right? Because I don't know, maybe back when you're in high school, you're surrounded within community that you grew up with and friends that you grew up with, maybe similar backgrounds, similar values. But then when you're in college, you'll get to meet different type of people. Your ideas are gonna get challenged. Your moral values are gonna get challenged. So be ready to be uh, to take criticism and be open-minded as well, and be able to stand your ground, right? Okay, this is my belief, and this is where I'm coming from, and be able to see other people's perspective, because you're gonna meet different types of people, people who are think conservatively, but think people who think more open-minded. You have to be able to kind of uh, deal with different types of people. So I would say prepare, and your bubble will certainly be burst. right? You're gonna see the different types of people in different views, and you learn a lot, and be able to, and make sure to be able to, handle that. That's what I would say.
Hannah, I
Uh,
see you
oh.
unmuted.
I think something that is super important. It's not as profound as what Harris had to say, but something that I think is really important is to go to office hours, talk to your professors, make connections. I think like a lot of, because I didn't come out of college with a lot of professional experience, but I made a lot of connections with professors and became super close with them, and they were able to give me advice, not only about like my academics and like how to get a better grade, but also like where I should go, like post college. And they're great as references to put on jobs, because if you like go to office hours and ask them, like make connections with professors, they will glow about you when like jobs call them. And yeah, just I think this goes for anyone. Go to office hours, talk to your professors, and like make connections not only with the peers around you, but with people that like you can see yourself like going to their career field.
I have a suggestion, but then again, the whole COVID thing changes a lot. There's a lot of resources that your university will have that you should take advantage of. Like Rihanna said, your professors are probably the top in their field. Getting to know them gives you a big leg up in your career. The library, as an architecture student, you have to get to know a lot of other works that have been done. Any major, really, like Islamic studies, you have other resources of like other scholars, and then the library. Al-Azhar is probably amazing, I imagine. There's counselors, there's advisors, there's people that will help you figure out what you want to do if you also don't know what you want to do yet. There's organizations, join clubs, organizations, find something you're passionate about. There's a lot of people that will have also similar interest, and that's where you can also make friends. Opportunities, take any opportunity that's interest you. Study abroad. I did a study abroad trip in Vietnam and Laos, which was probably the most amazing trip I've had so far, learning about colonial architecture in Southeast Asia. Super interesting. So take every chance you can get, if because you're an undergrad. A lot of undergrads have the privilege of having, if you do have the privilege of having extra time, take advantage of that, and the opportunities at your disposal. So don't be afraid to try something new, even if it doesn't relate to your major. You might find that something comes out of it that's unexpected, and that's always the best. Those are always the best experiences. So that's hopefully something you can take away. I wish I knew, because I wish I started earlier with trying to grasp these opportunities. So start from the beginning, and that's where you can start to set your roots in your university experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the whole thing about doubling down on just mentorship, right? I feel like it's really important that people on similar paths, and then you can just ask away, right? Just to keep it more original, I guess, because everyone had amazing remarks. I'd say, you have to have your priorities straight. You have to have sacrifice, right? So you're gonna see that, what are you gonna put as a priority versus what is not as important. So you need to, I feel like I wish I was told this way before when I started studying Islam and whatnot, what is going to be down on the ground, what you need to study, what you don't need to go into or look further in. But, you need to know what you need to do, when you need to do it, and also how to do it, right? So, um, you know, that's, I feel like that's one thing that I'm still learning as well in terms of sacrifice, what takes priority over the other, because, no pain, no gain, right? That's how it works. But yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much to all our panelists for sharing your experiences and for your time and for your wisdom, inshallah. Inshallah, everyone attending has gleaned something from it and can walk away with applicable advice. So this closes this portion of our session, and we would now like to but for those of you on the East Coast, this is probably a good time to Salat Maghrib before we go into our graduate part of the session. Yeah. So once again, thank you to our panelists. You're welcome to stay. You're also welcome to leave. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you, inshallah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations to all the graduates. You guys are probably going to go on to do great things.
Congratulations to you, Rehana. You just graduated undergrad as well. All right, Assalamualaikum. Alrighty. So for the rest of us, I'm going to pass it over to Tiana for the intermission, inshallah.
Hey, assalamualaikum everyone. I hope you guys all enjoyed that panel. We really enjoyed having everyone here, and just moving forward, just letting everyone know that IMSA Youth is growing, and we are trying to stay more active and have more programs, and we always like everyone's suggestions. So we created a Google Doc that you can put your suggestions in. And so that's just going to be a running Google Doc that we will also put on our Instagram bio. So anytime you have a suggestion, you can always just click it and put in the information and any suggestions you have for any programs, any lectures, any panels, any discussions, anything. And we would really appreciate it. Backtracking, I'm sorry. I would really like to thank all the panelists who spoke tonight and everyone who's attending. This is a very big event, alhamdulillah, for everyone. We also would like to congratulate all of the graduates who graduated either from high school or from undergrad or graduate school. Congratulations to everyone. It was definitely difficult to graduate and finish off school during this difficult time of COVID. Also, we do invite the graduates to wear your cap and gowns for the second half of our like graduation event. We would really love it if you guys would wear them. So going back to the youth suggestion form, I'm going to drop the link inside of the group chat on Zoom. That's for any suggestions for everyone. Another thing is coming up, we do have a couple words from the IMSA president himself. He would like to say congratulations, so please stick around for that. We also, if you guys are not following us on Instagram, please follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is @IMSA Youth. There you can find all of the updates on the most recent events, anything coming up, anything like any questions and any feedback that we want to get from you guys. Another thing that we just created is the WhatsApp group, and so you guys are more than welcome to join our WhatsApp group. I'm gonna send a link. Please, if it can be just the youth, nothing against the parents, but we would like to get to know each other more as a youth group and reach out and kind of build bonds with each other. So anyone who wants to join can join. I'm going to drop the link as well. So that is the link for the youth group. Again, thank you everyone for coming and joining. If there are any other questions, please let me know or let Zahra know or anyone else who is on our youth department, our IMSA youth department. And if there are any suggestions or questions about anything moving forward, you can let us all know as well. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed our panel discussion, and hopefully moving forward, we will have a lot more panel discussions, not only on college, but also maybe on like other things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like Kiana said, we're still growing and trying to get everyone's advice and things of that sort. But yeah, inshallah. In all honesty, we're just trying to fill up time for everyone to Salat Maghrib, but that's some things that youth are doing. Friday nights we have our 1 week, one juz program, led by our dear Hafid Fadli. So that's happening. That's also happening this Friday, inshallah. And yeah, it's a good little offshoot from previous Ramadan programs and just a good way to reconnect with people. Allah.
Another thing that we have coming up is a general youth body meeting. So that's for all the youth to join us and kind of give us your feedback and your suggestions, because we do, at being a first time group, like we don't typically do stuff like this. We usually just plan for Muktamar and it's like a one time thing. So we would love for everyone's suggestions and we would love if you guys could come. So look out for that. Look on the Instagram or on the WhatsApp group. We would love for you guys to come and give in your suggestions and your feedback and give us advice on like what you want to see moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you first of all to our panelists and oh, this is so weird. I'm like seeing the radio IMSA thing and it's like
Yeah, it's weird.
sorry, super random. I know. Anyway, yeah, shout out to all the panelists. As a current college student, there's a lot to take away as well because college is always a time of growth and change. And I also want to shout out to all the people who are watching this and all the people who tuned in, because like you're the reason why we're doing this and why we have these events every week. So inshallah, you guys can stay tuned and come every week. So yeah.
Also another thing, sorry. Going back to what I think Sahra said, you guys can always reach out to anyone in IMSA who has a background in what you're interested in. There's a lot of people in IMSA, as you saw from the panel, who have backgrounds in everything. Astrid in architecture, Rihanna in international relations, Honest, and studying Islam. Did I get that right? Is it international? And Hearts and Med. So, but there are a ton of other people who sit not only on the IMSA Youth Board, but there's also other IMSA attendees who also have a lot of background in other things. And you're bound to find someone who has the same interests as you and who can help you moving forward, especially if you're in college or if you're in high school, still debating on a major. So you can ask either one of us and we'll try our best to find someone in the community who can pair you up with someone else in the community who can help you with your interests. Or if it's any one of us, we can help you out too.
Yep. Yeah, you might have noticed that we like specifically did not have an engineering or /CS narrative on this panel just because we found that that kind of tends to overtake a lot of other previous similar events. But that also means that there are so many of us that you should feel free to contact if so wish to do so. Yeah. Inshallah, we'll have a graduation slideshow in 5 minutes after everyone's Salat Maghrib. This is also a great time for the graduates to get their caps and gowns if they wish to. Yeah.
We're starting a bit, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. 8:15 or 6:15.
Yeah. I call it. I mean, just me personally. This is gonna be like a whole, I guess, not rant, but like spiel, a whole thing about like, oh, like why I feel like IMSA Youth is really very crucial, very important in terms of what we're trying to get in terms of the events that we're having, the community that we're trying to create as well. It's I guess just to break down like the whole history of like IMSA Youth and whatnot. This is like a fairly new project, I guess, from IMSA. It's like been a month, right, or so. Yeah, it's been a month or so, and then I guess there has been like I guess bumps on the road and whatnot in terms of starting this new thing because I don't know if there's been a whole IMSA youth team even previously before this, right? And so just to have that kind of platform that we're trying to create for everyone, especially like people our age, right, and younger, and just having that kind of platform, that voice that it's coming from us and it's going back, right? We're just bouncing off each other, and I feel like that's really needed in terms of doing community, right, in a sense. But yeah, I really am very thankful for you guys for just tuning in and just seeing what's coming along with the youth team and everything. Totally appreciative. Like personally, I don't know. It's like thinking about like, oh, okay, like the Indonesian Muslim community and like how I guess you could say I've like the Indonesian community or even the Muslim Indonesian community itself might be like a minority within a minority if you think about it in terms of being in the US, and just having like these platforms, right, having these groups and so forth, they really um, keep that cohesion, that kind of community kind of sense, is what I'm getting at, inshallah. But stick around, totally stick around, stay tuned with what we have coming up, inshallah. I'm really excited for what we're gonna create in the present and in the future. But yeah.
Okay, inshallah. Yeah, stay tuned. Follow us on our socials and keep up with our rollouts, inshallah. I think we will get back to our programming now, inshallah. Finally! Are we ready to I need a moment. So are we good to go on the slideshow, inshallah, Didik?
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones here today, close to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember.
How's the tradition go?
When I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever and everything.
I guess people could like
the same.
pull that off when
Now my heart
the
feel like
slides are done.
December.
You are
When somebody
legitimized
say
as a
your
brand.
name. 'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Yeah.
Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday, yeah. But everything will be alright. Go as your voice will say, hey.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones here today, close to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. Do 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 do. Memories bring back Memories bring back you. Memories bring back you. Memories bring back you. Ah, here's to the ones. Cheers, cheers. Memories bring back you. Ah, here's to the ones. Memories bring back you. Memories bring back you. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through.
Close to the ones here today, close to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you.
There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain.
When I believed in forever and everything would stay the same.
Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name.
'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day, yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday, yeah. But everything will be alright, go as your voice will say, hey.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Close to the ones here today, close to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back you. Memories bring back you. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost.
When I felt that all the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feels like an ember, and it's lighting up the dark.
I'll carry these torches for you, let you know I'll never drop. Yeah.
Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday.
Okay, thank you so much to IMSA Sisters for that video, and I'm pretty sure it will be uploaded on Facebook as well. So, graduates, you look great. Mashallah, thank you guys. Congratulations. We are all so proud of you. I should have looked up the actual speech protocol, but I'm gonna pretend that I can do this. It's like by the power vested in me by the university. Something like that. You may now move your tassels from right to left. Congratulations, you guys. Thank you all for joining us today and celebrating with us. We are so excited to see what you guys do in the future, inshallah, and we are ready to support you all the way through in however ways we can. Okay, so next I would like to introduce to you our president, my president, Safrin, IMSA's president, who has a few words for our graduates. He is our keynote speaker today.
Congratulations to all of you graduates,
Assalamualaikum
class of 2020.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Thank you, Zahra, for inviting me. And thank you to all panelists, Anas, Haris, Rehana, Astrid. This is really a good program and very informational. And I think this is not just helping our new graduates to prepare for their college life, but also to strengthen a good bonding among IMSA youth. Alhamdulillah. So we would like to see more of this in the coming weeks or months, right? Inshallah, Zahra. And now for all the graduates, class of 2020, I cannot express how happy I am and I'm proud I am to all of you. And congratulations that you made it through. And again, this really shows your strengths and perseverance, especially during this difficult time. You know, no graduation ceremonies from school, right? No problem. You were able to make up your own. I saw a YouTube video that you guys, driving around the city and honking, and all you do, you went to a city and then taking pictures, so you're good. And also being trapped at home and seeing no friends, only parents. You are no expert in Zoom, so alhamdulillah. All I can say is that you are a tough individual, and then you get used to toughness. You see what I mean in the video that we're going to play at the end of the after my short speech. So again, we are proud to all of you, and my time is really limited. No much time, and I promise to Zakira, I think she's here too, my daughter who also graduated this year. She's going to UVA, inshallah. So make dua for her, and then to all of you as well. I promise her that I'm not giving a lecture. I just want to share 4 things in brief, as I call it, as IMSA tips. I'm dressing up for you just to make sure that I am right now facing in front of me all going to be successful people. So I'm dressing up for you, and then really, seeing you in the coming years that you're going to be successful in career, in life, in many ways. And then also I'm wearing this IMSA polo shirts. Proud to be IMSA member as well. Basically, I just want to give IMSA tips. What I mean by IMSA tips, I think it's kind of like IMSA philosophy. I just made up yesterday. Made it specially for you, and I hope you may use them as guidance since you're going to be exploring a new college life. But before I proceed, let's do a quick super quiz. I already asked permission to Zahra that I have $30 gift card. It's just going to be very quick. And whoever quick, raise hand or anything, I'm going to ask. I mentioned about IMSA tips. I'm going to mention later on, in few minutes. But does anyone knows what IMSA stand for? Real quick. Raise hand or just speak up. Oh, come on, $30.
You ask what IMSA stands for?
Yeah, what IMSA stands for?
Oh, I know. The Indonesian Muslim Society in America.
Indonesian Muslims. All right. Okay, Zahra, right, her name. Now the second question. The second question is, what was it before? The one that like I just mentioned. What was the original name before society in America? Quick.
Indonesian.
Oh, you can go.
Yeah.
Indonesian Muslim Students Association.
Who's that? I'm not picking up.
I didn't turn my camera on, but I'm
okay. All right, Zahra. So again, congratulations, double congratulations. So your $30 is so back now. Basically, the reason why I mentioned IMSA, what IMSA stands for now, society. We are now just becoming a community of family organizations. While before we were just like you, just like an MSA. Soon when you're joining your college, you're going to be joining at MSA, Muslim Student Associations. We were just like students when we were young, but IMSA now is growing along the way. And now look at you. You all grown up. And not too long ago, you were so very little. I still remember we always go to Muktamar, and then your dad, your mom, just like holding you. And but time goes fast. So anyway, that's at least now IMSA. So let's continue now. Here are the 4 IMSA tips. I mentioned about the 4 philosophy I just made specially. for you, and then I want you to like ponder for just a moment. So the first I is independent. Yes, you be independent individuals. You will take care of yourself. No more emails, calls from school, notifying parents like I used to get from my son. Zakira is a good girl. But parents about your absence. No more tardy cuts, especially when later you live at the dorm. No one will wake you up or make your breakfast or do your laundry. So you're going to be your own, and then your college is a busy schedule, and then you have to be able to make times. I could go on, but my point is you need to prepare yourself for independent life and embrace it and never take things for granted. So that's I, but I, right? Independent. The M is mature. And one of the signs that you are entering mature life is when you finish high school. One of the signs, you still can be childish to your parents. That's okay, but that's one of the signs, because you'll be more responsible on how to get things done. You will make priorities, and you need to be self-motivated. You understand more between right and wrong, and when things go wrong and not expected as you want it to be, you'll be able to control your emotions, and then you keep looking up and then standing still. Know that Allah is always with you. You make dua and hope things will go well. That's the M. So the S is successful. And that's why I'm dressing up. You're going to be a successful individual, inshallah. And promise me in 4 years, come back when we'll see you, graduating from college and the other university. But the successful, yes, seeing you now, I had no doubt that you'll be successful individuals. And to prepare for your new life, you have to be able to know the recipe of being successful. Getting good grades is one of the recipe. Able to maintain your GPA, able to manage your time, being organized, able to work with others, to always have a positive mindset, and etc. Those are the ingredients you need to play well to get the best recipe, inshallah. And then the last but not least is, excuse me, excuse me, is adaptability. Being able to adapt in college life does matter, especially now you are living in the Industrial Revolution 4.0. I think you know about this in the Revolution 4.0, right? And then let's call it, you guys are the Youth 4.0, because this is your era. My era, and then your parents. We are on the in this revolutions 3.0, where the computerization, but now is 4.0 is about everything tend to be replaced by automations and AI. If you are not staying competitive, adapt to changes, accept challenges, or willing to learn new things, you'll be left behind by others. So it is important to have the mindset nothing is impossible. So again, I always be adaptable in any situations, and those are the four IMSA philosophy just made for you. And then I hope you just like ponder and then think about that, right? Independent, mature, uh, 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 successful, and then adaptability. Now, so again, congratulations, and I hope you are excited and ready to enter a new life with a new norm as well. Stay cool, stay tough, and be the best. So in closings, I would like to share with you a video. Again, we just specially made for you just couple days. That's why I have to thank Sony, Fadli, who made the video very well done. And then this video is made for you, and then actually it's a portrait of yourself about being a tough individual. So please mute your mic, turn off your video, and then dim the light and enjoy. Mas Didi, whenever you're ready, I'm going to also mute. Whenever you're ready, Mas Edi. Sorry, I'm still speaking. I don't think you have to disable your video, but feel free.
Congratulations to all of you graduates, class of 2020. In this 3-minute video, let me tell you a story. Around 20 years ago, the United States of America were the most attractive country in the world. Everybody loved America. It's the most developed, the richest, the most powerful, and the most free country in the world. Not only that, the pop culture America pioneered has always been praised for by people around the globe. Everybody wanted to come here. Some even would do anything, like leaving everything behind to get a taste of the American dream. But then 9/11 happened. Everything fell apart, especially for your parents, your uncles and your aunts, your brothers and sisters, and all Muslims. Every step of their lives became security concern. All your relatives instantly portrayed as suspects of terrorism just in one day. And then the war, which made the situation even worse. You see, that was a tough time, the crisis of crisis, the most challenging time faced bravely by your predecessors. And if you haven't realized, you're already there, born to the world in 2002, at that difficult time. So you were born, raised, and growing up in hard times. And you know what? You made it till now. So congratulations again. Fighting is in your blood. It's your nature. Just like what your parents showed. They didn't give up. They fought. So you're all fighters, children of fighters. Now you're an adult. Fine, independent men and women. And once again, we're in a time of crisis. While all your older brothers and sisters had their graduation after high school, you're chosen to be in a different situation. One can't speculate why it has to be you, but one thing for sure, that's because you're built for this. A smooth sea never made a skillful sailor, right? But if you feel sad and need to take a rest, no problem. We're all humans after all. Isn't there indeed some stops in life? We don't always have to run fast. So take a deep breath to be ready to run again, to take a step forward. Remember again the huge goal and purpose you've set for yourselves. The dreams you stuck between the stars in the sky. They're still waiting for you. You know, to just live for yourself is easy, but does it benefit you anything in the later world? The best among you are those who bring greatest benefits to many others, the prophet said. But of course, to do that, you need to first get settled with your own lives. For those who don't have, can't give. And you already knew that. That's why you set your dreams very high. So buckle up, it's just the beginning. Expect more turbulence ahead of you. Just remember that you're destined to be a fighter. And you've shown that by doing it since you're born, fighting. So let's just continue. For yourselves, your family, your nation, and most importantly, for Allah. And later on, let's take a rest together, eternally, in Jannah.
So what do you think? Right? You're born as a fighter. You are a fighter and then you'll be successful, inshallah. So my time is up and then I'm giving back to Zahra. Thank you everyone. And again, congratulations. Okay, claim for the $30 gifts, okay? To Zahra. She's paying, by the way. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you again to Safrin for speaking and for the very well produced video, mashallah. Safrin has always been a huge supporter of youth and our program, so it's he will also support you all, inshallah. So I would like to close the session again, or officially, and again congratulate you all on your endeavors, and we really truly wish for the best for you. And if you ever need any of us for anything at all, please feel free to ask. Just reach out. All right, okay, so with love and community and in solidarity, let's close this session. سبحان الله اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Go youth! Thank you, Safrin. All right, goodbye everybody. Congrats.